Thank you for tuning into my channel. Don't forget to click on like and subscribe if you like what you see and you want to be notified when I release future videos. And in today's video, I am going to present a walkthrough demonstration of the Splunk 101 room on the TryHackMe.com platform. The title of this room is Splunk Basics, and we're going to learn the basics of Splunk. So let's go ahead and get started. So task 1, introduction, tells us that Splunk is one of the leading SIEM or SIEM solutions in the market. Provides us the ability to collect, analyze, and correlate the network and machine logs in real time. So in this room, we're going to explore the basics of how we use a tool like Splunk and its functionalities and how it provides us with better visibility of network activities and with speeding up the detection process. So this is when we have detected some type of event or indicator of compromise, or if we just need to further investigate any type of suspicious activity. So learning objectives here, we have a Splunk overview, Splunk components, how they work, different ways to ingest logs, and normalization of data. In step 2, task 2, we're going to connect with the lab. So to connect with the lab, we actually have to deploy a virtual machine that we are going to interact with in order to access the Splunk application. And this machine lives within the internal Splunk network. So therefore, if we want to interact with that machine, we have to either utilize a VPN connection from our own virtual machine, Kali Linux virtual machine, or we could utilize the built-in attack box that is available on the TryHackMe platform. Now, the attack box is a built-in browser, like an in-browser tool that has a connection to the internal Splunk network device that we're trying to reach. However, in my case, I'm actually going to use my own Kali Linux virtual machine. I'm able to do so because right now I have an active VPN connection to the TryHackMe platform that gives me a direct connection to be able to interact with the virtual machine that we are going to utilize today. So with that being said, I am going to look at the IP address of the machine that has been assigned to us, and I am going to launch a new tab here where I can paste the IP address of that machine. Looks like it's still starting up, so I'm going to give that a couple of more seconds. But you want to ensure that you check that the IP address that you're trying to connect with is what TryHackMe has assigned for your particular exercise, because yours will likely be something different than what I'm utilizing in my walkthrough. So you just want to make sure that you end up in the right place. So okay, so it looks like it took a little while longer for that to launch than I expected it to, and it's actually still in the process of loading right now. So we'll just move forward with the rest of the TryHackMe room until we're ready to reference the Splunk search tool. So looking at step number 3. Step number 3 tells us that Splunk has 3 main components, namely a forwarder, indexer, and a search head. These components are explained below. The forwarder is a lightweight agent that we get to install on endpoints, and it gives the endpoints a configuration that allows them to send their logging data to the Splunk server, so that way we can correlate and centralize all of that information into one single pane of glass, like one repo of logging data. So these logs can come from web servers, Windows machines, Linux hosts, database servers, just to give you some examples. And it makes it very easy to collect that data and search for relevant information during our detection searches. So we also have a Splunk indexer, which plays the main role in processing the data it receives from the forwarders. So it takes in data, it normalizes it into field value pairs, determines the data type of the data, and it stores them as events. And that processed data is easy to search and analyze, and that's kind of what we're going to utilize today with our search and reporting tool. So we also have a search head. Search head is where we enter any queries on the log data that is available within our Splunk application. And this search head actually, well, Splunk in general, utilizes a special language called Splunk Search Processing Language, SPL. And it utilizes this language for our queries, and it takes those queries and it sends that request back to the indexer, and then the relevant information or events is returned back to us in the form of field value pairs. And we can use that information to further generate analysis or statistics. We can create visualizations, we can create dashboards, different patterns, etc. So it's a pretty nifty tool that can provide us with a lot of insights depending on the type of data that we're interested in. So the first question here for task number 3 says, which component is used to collect and send data over the Splunk instance? And we covered that in this lesson. In this section, that would be the Splunk forwarder. So Splunk forwarder is that particular component that can be an endpoint that has an agent installed on it that gives it configuration to say, hey, forward all of your, security or application logs or whatnot over to the Splunk server or to the Splunk indexer. So navigating Splunk is task number 4. We're going to go ahead and move on to task number 4. It says navigating Splunk. We have a Splunk bar. So when we access Splunk, we're going to see a default home page that looks like this. This is the home screen. It says add data. It says Splunk apps, and it says Splunk docs. So docs are always important. We always want to reference the docs, read those docs. They provide you with a lot of good information as far as best practices for utilizing a tool or a system. So looking at each section, we have a Splunk bar that has options for messages. Like if you have any errors that are going on, like sometimes my Splunk server on my home lab will fill up with too much data. It needs more disk space, and just the other day I had to add an additional volume or extend the volume on my Windows server where my Splunk application lives, so that way I could get rid of that error messages and Splunk could run more efficiently. We also have settings, activities, and help. These provide some additional settings or configurations or buttons and knobs that we can use for interacting with Splunk. So we also have the apps panel. Apps panel provides us with different options for interacting with the Splunk data, the data that we have pulled into Splunk. There are a lot of third-party apps. You can find those on the Splunk base website. There's also some other additional ones that are offered by Splunk themselves, like Splunk Security Essentials, Splunk Security Enterprise. So those are some other optional tools that can be added on and integrated with Splunk. Now, all of this stuff uses licenses. You can use a demo license for a limited period of time, like 60 days, but then you can revert to a free license, and then you're just limited by how much data you're allowed to ingest. At that point, there's a cap on that amount once you're on the free license and you're not using a paid license. So I have no idea how much a paid license is. So anyways, Explore Splunk is another section where we can choose to reference those options that I just mentioned here. We have the Splunk dashboard, and this section is the home dashboard. By default, no dashboards are displayed here, but we can create a range of different dashboards that are readily available within our Splunk instance and add them here to our dashboards listings page. That way we have them available on our home dashboard. And they can be viewed isolated from others, or by clicking on the Yours tab, we can view the ones that we have created. So here we have a question that says, in the Add Data tab, they want to know which option is used to collect data from files and ports. So back at the Splunk dashboard here, if I'm in the Explore Splunk area and I click on Add Data, I'm going to click here. Oh my God, it runs so slow. Okay, so we can see that we have different data that we can send to the Splunk platform, and it can come from cloud computing, networking, operating system, security devices, or we can get data in with the following methods. We can upload files from our local machine. We can do monitoring of files and ports from other devices in our network, or we can use a forwarder where we install a lightweight agent on an endpoint that will send us their logs. But the answer that they're looking for here is monitor, because monitor tells us that this option utilizes monitoring of files and ports on this Splunk platform instance in order to get that data. So therefore, monitor is our answer. So moving on to task 5, we're going to actually go ahead and add data. And what we're doing in this case is we are downloading some files that have been provided to us. These are VPN files. So we click on the download task files button here, and I've already downloaded it before, so it's in my downloads folder here. And what we're going to do is we're going to upload that to our Splunk instance by clicking on the upload button here from the add data screen. Now, before you get too excited with adding all of that information in here, if you scroll further down below, you will notice that there is an animation that is taking place further down this screen where we are given information on how to set our host field configuration, our host field name, and also for, let's see, VPN connections. And then we also need to set up our index. So we're creating a new index here, and the name of that index is VPN logs. And we're going to go ahead and save it. And we're going to select that as our index before moving forward. Select it from the drop-down list right there down below. Click on review, and that's a summary of the data here. And then we're going to click on start searching. Okay, so from here we're going to go ahead and click on the file tab, and this is in my downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and click on VPN logs.json. I'm going to double click it. It's going to get populated here saying that this is the selected file. I can see it has been uploaded. It says done. I'm going to go ahead and click on next. And Splunk is pretty smart, because Splunk is telling me that my source type is going to be JSON. It automatically detected that information based on the data that it saw in my file. However, we can choose other options just depending on what type of data we're trying to integrate with Splunk. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and click on next, and we're going to choose our input settings. We're going to change our host field value here to VPN connections. This is what the source of this data, the host that it's coming from, is going to appear as coming from the VPN connections. And we're going to create a new index. So we're going to click on index, and we're going to type in VPN_logs, and we're going to click on save. And actually from the default drop down here, you can click on VPN logs to select it here, and then we click on review. This is a summary of the data that we typed in, and then we click on submit. And the file has been uploaded successfully, and we can now start searching. So we have landed here on our search page of the search app, and we can see that we've defaulted to the all time for the time duration parameter here, and we have a query that has already been automatically inserted based on the data inputs that we entered when we were uploading our JSON data file. So looking back at the Splunk page, the TryHackMe room, we have a question here that has mentioned that now that we've uploaded the data attached to this task and we've created the VPN logs index, how many events are present in the log file? And I know you can see my answers, but I'm going to show you how I arrived at those answers. So we're told that we are looking for index equals VPN_logs. How many events are present there? So we're going to go ahead and modify this search. We want to take everything out really except for the index equals VPN logs. That's our search query. So I'm going to take everything else out here. And then I'm going to press enter. And as you can see, the resulting information is that we have a total of 2,862 events. So that takes care of answer number 1. Question number 2, how many log events by the user Melina are captured? So let's see, we are looking for Melina. Where are you, Melina? So if we want to take a look at the interesting fields, we can kind of get a hint as to how we can find someone named Melina. So these are interesting fields that Splunk is automatically picking up on, that it is populating in our search results for us. And if we click on username, I can see that we have a user named Melina here. I can click on it to add her to the search results, but I can already see here that we have a count of 60. 60 times we have logging data, log events by the user Melina that were captured. So here our answer is 60. Next question, what is the name associated with IP 107.14.182.38? So I'm going to copy and paste this IP address, and I'm going to come back to my Splunk search screen. I'm going to keep my index here, but I'm going to paste in Control V. I'm going to paste in that IP address, and I don't have to type "and" because if you just put a space and then you put in another piece of data, Splunk is automatically going to assume that you mean "and." You want the previous term "and," the one that is next. So we're going to go ahead and enter that IP address. So the question is, what is the username that is associated with that IP address? We can view the username Smith. And the first entry that appears in the event log data. However, with this query, with this particular query, we also have the option of scrolling down to the username label in the interesting field section, interesting field panel. And from here, we can see that there is one username associated with that IP address in the events, and his name is Smith. And he had a total of 26 events that occurred. So that's another place where we could have found that information to indicate that Smith is the name that is associated with that IP address, probably an end user of that particular device. What is the number of events that originated from all countries except for France? Okay. So what we're doing here is we're going to take out this IP address because we don't want this IP address anymore. But we're on our index VPN logs and we're looking for countries. So if we scroll down the interesting fields panel, or the fields panel itself, we can see that we have something called source country. And if I click on it, I see that we have all of these different countries that were associated with the data in these event logs. Now, the information provided to us here says that we want countries that were not France. So I already know that we can use source country. This is the format of this particular parameter. So we want to search on source country. I can see that we have source country and all of these are in quotations here, equals, and we don't necessarily want France. We want do not equals France. So I'm going to stick an exclamation point in front of that equal sign. I'm going to say source country does not equal France. I'm going to hit enter. And I get a total of 2,814 events. So that's where we get the 2,814 from. So then finally, how many VPN events were observed by the IP address 107.3.206.58? So I'm going to copy and paste that IP address there. And I'm going to get rid of the France part. Don't need that anymore. And I don't have to put the word "and." Splunk understands that if I don't specify the word "and," that it is implied when I put in a second term here that I am implying that I want that first term and that second term. So if I search on that particular IP address, I can see that we have a total of 14 events that were observed by 107.3.206.58. So in conclusion, we have task number 6 conclusion. In this room we explored Splunk, components, how it works. Please check the following Splunk walkthrough and challenge rooms to understand how Splunk is effectively used in investigating incidents. And please don't forget to click on like and subscribe to keep track of my YouTube channel. That way you will be notified when I release future videos, including videos on the TryHackMe Splunk rooms that you see listed below. Thank you for watching. Have a great one.